Welcome to the VMJPod Graduate Recruitment Series, where we dive into the latest trends and innovations in early career hiring, featuring insights from industry top experts driving the future of talent acquisition.
Greg, welcome to VMJPod.
Thanks, Steve. David, it's a pleasure to be here. Looking forward to unpacking, several different approaches and where we've had some success with our hiring.
Yeah, awesome. All right. And look, very, very excited about this topic and theme, especially understanding, that retention piece, which, as you and I know, has been a challenge in any number of organizations since time immemorial when we've done Grad. But I guess to give everyone else here who maybe doesn't know you as well as what we do, do you want to give them a bit of a background into, the career history to date, where you've come from, how you ended up at what looks like a very, very fast-growing startup now?
Sure. So I guess to start off, my initial exposure into the early career space was through apprenticeships and cadetships. And that was, I guess, a window into what is really driving early career professionals, like students coming through, and what they're aspiring towards for their career. And then, from that, I've got through running leadership programs for early careers professionals across a number of different industries, which is great, getting different touch points, different insights, understanding how businesses are trying to get the most from juniors, as well as trying to manage their development and their career progression. And then it's allowed me to jump into the tech scene, which I really am drawn to around fast paced. There's appetite for innovation at every turn, it's very, very results focused. With let's just aim incredibly high and let's optimize for what we want to do long term, and then what are the steps for us to be able to get there. I've had the chance to work in consultancies, some large corporates, some smaller firms in the defense sector, private sector, and now a rapidly growing startup, scale-up in the fintech space, which I'll be honest, I didn't really understand the whole finance sector all that much. So it's been a huge learning curve, and I guess I'm drawn to those challenges as well.
Yeah, and it'd be really cool to get that juxtaposition between big corporate firms, where maybe that appetite for innovation is still as strong, but the hoops and the levers that you've got to pull to be able to drive some of that change can be very, very difficult versus, I guess, the business that you're in now, which seems absolutely on to make sure that they get it right, but they're open to changing things to ensure that they get it right.
Just to set the scene, in terms of the grad intake that you're taking on, even interns as well, what sort of numbers are we talking about?
It's very small with us in comparison to some of the large operations that we have here in Australia. Interns is under 10 for us across two offices, Melbourne and Sydney. And then the strategy for us is to convert those interns into our graduate roles. So we don't do a lot of direct sort of promotion and campaign level stuff to recruit grads from market or in their final year. We want to hire our interns, those who've already tested us out, and then are well on board around what their experience and what their first few years of their career could look like.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to unpacking this episode because it is fun talking to large enterprise organizations that are taking on loads of people and having thousands upon thousands of applications. But I think we can get really a bit more meta with the smaller cohort that's coming through and how you're identifying and really targeting these types of talented individuals to come and join your business. So I think it's going to be a great episode.
What do you reckon?
Absolutely. Look, I think, the large corporate stuff is it has its own challenges, and a lot of that's around optimizing for efficiency. How do you get the same quality result, but be able to hand that scale? There's a different complex challenges. Whereas in the startup scene, it's being able to do all of that, but at pace.
Yep. And I'm assuming you're being very selective with the types of people that you're bringing in from an intern perspective.
Yeah, I mean that is part of that. That's a hiring strategy. So being founder led, it's a very clear view on the talent that we're looking for, and then ensuring that you have that buy-in through your broader engineering or domain leadership, down into your hiring managers as well as your interviewer panels. Being really clear around what that looks like and understanding the why it needs to look like that. And if we keep digging in, the sheer nature of a startup is you're incredibly lean. So teams are small. Everyone is foot down, going for it. The expectations are quite a bit different, and that's appealing to different segments of the talent, our audience that we're looking for as well. So you're really you're aiming for that segment, but then you're also being really clear with your hiring teams around what you are looking for and how to actually get that. And it's essentially the teams are hiring for their next intern or next grad. So, they've got to be so sure and confident that the people that they're talking to, that they're willing to put forward to another stage, are exactly the people that they prepared to have a go through the intern program.
There are so many wonderful tech companies here in Australia. How do you compete with that level of talent and stand out so that you are getting the best engineering talent to Airwallex?
Yeah,
is it a challenge?
It's a huge challenge. There's some incredible employer brands that we have in Australia, and then obviously the global players that are operating here as well. I think it's a case of getting very clear around your value proposition and what it is that you're looking for, but also being able to explain what that means to a student.
Do students know who you are before they are considering you? Or?
It was actually the exact question that I was really keen to understand as well.
Sorry to jump in there.
Yeah. Well, I guess because like you said, you're only really marketing to, I'm assuming it's your penultimate year students that kind of come on, do that internship, stay and become a grad. You're in market once compared to other firms that might be in market the entire year. How do you get that cut through? Yeah,
look, we definitely struggle, as do we all in this space, to try and attract the absolute top talent that you're looking for. We're trying to do similar things, but I guess our value prop is quite different. The environment that we have, due to being a startup, is lean, and therefore the makeup and the structure of our program is slightly different. The availability of, I guess the design of our support frameworks are a little bit different as well.
Are there universities that you have an alliance with that might be a company to putting your name forward in consideration to those students? Yeah,
so we obviously are we're small, so we're having to be quite selective for the student bases that we go to, and if we had a bigger team, then maybe we would try and get to more campuses and more events, but there's only so much we can do, and also that ROI for a small intake. You've got to strike that balance.
Yeah, but I guess the really important thing, because absolutely it's great to talk about the challenges, but it's actually working for you guys. You're hitting your targets, you're hiring your interns, they're becoming your grads, and I think the bit when we were talking just before we went on air, you haven't lost anyone through the first 3 years of grad program and then post-grad program. And that retention stat is
epic.
Yeah, I mean, frankly, there would be any number of companies out there that would want it, right? Like, where's the magic starting to come from?
Yeah, look, it's explaining what that value prop is, and then the opportunity for a student to try that for themselves and experience what the challenges actually are at Airwallex for an intern, and then to see quite easily, either through their buddy or their mentor who may have been a previous grad, to see what challenges they work on. I mean, that's an eye opener. And that is really like the crux of what students are trying to work out is what is it like to work somewhere? What is it really like beyond all the marketing and the pitch and the advertising that's out there? What does that experience actually entail? And is it a right fit for me? So going to campus, talking to students, it's being really honest and transparent around, look, this is what we do. You will have a project that is in a product roadmap. It's possibly in a team's backlog for the last number of weeks, and they would like to get this shipped or at least in beta. So here's this project. You have 10 weeks, 10, 11 weeks, and go. And that's incredibly attractive for
Yeah, it really is.
high achieving students who may already be building, hobby projects, having side hustles.
Yeah.
Maybe they've started a number of their own little companies along the way while they've been studying, and then they're quite eager to really test themselves.
So that would be appealing, not for everyone, but for engineers who want to hold their own and are up for that challenge. What role do the hiring managers play in selecting the talent?
I guess a hiring process is not too dissimilar from most early career recruitment processes.
Okay.
Our hiring managers are on board with the capacity to support an intern coming into the team over a particular period in the year. With summer intern, everybody's doing their intern programs over summer.
Yep.
The hiring managers are, I guess, the final bar raiser in our process. They will ultimately make the final decision, and then to make a recommendation to our global CTO, who's a co-founder, to hire an intern. So having a global CTO make the final call, as well as our CEO Jack is across it as well. Hiring managers are intimately involved. They understand the roadmap and the work that's coming. They have a very clear picture around their team makeup, where their strengths are, the focus of work, what that roadmap entails over the next few months into years, with knowing how critical it is to make sure you manage that pipeline and building that talent to come in.
So having that, clearly there's got to be some really, really strong alignment between your hiring manager and the notion that they can even support having an intern in. I mean, if you've got to endorse it to the co-founder and the CTO before you actually get the approval to sign off on things, they've got to be pretty certain about, yes, I've got the work. Yes, I can support. How do you, in your role, ensure that, I guess, you're helping those hiring managers through that process of, whether it's workforce planning or whether it's, like what projects are we looking at, that kind of stuff, to help them build that confidence that they can then go, yeah, we can do this?
Yeah, I think there is a balance between that workforce planning piece, as in how more headcount would you be able to support, but the real sort of juicy pieces around that project scope. So each of those hiring managers that will involve their team and their team leads and other senior engineers in preparing a project scope. And then there's a validation piece in there and making sure that the work that's being prepared or the project that's been proposed for an intern needs to meet some of our expectations. So it has to be complex enough. It has to be enough of a challenge. The idea is that the project should stretch that individual that comes in. So whoever it is who ultimately comes through the recruitment process, like we do our best to try and align strengths to where that project domain is based. but yeah, the idea is that it really needs to replicate what our environment is. Like there's no special case. This is an intern level kind of picture. This is real work. It's a real project, and it's just ensuring that the scope is big enough. I don't want to say throw people into the deep end, but it's more or less like that. Like they've been challenged to see if this is the right environment for them, because if it's not the same as what it is day to day for a normal engineer, it's a bit of a false sense of what life at Airwallex is like for an engineer. So
it's clearly working.
Yes.
100% retention rate in 3 years. It's massive. What's the role that the hiring managers are playing, not just to identify the talent, but to nurture them through that grad experience?
There's a lot of trust with their teams. So they've got other people that are involved with the hiring process. So, for example, our first live interview is an engineering, a technical interview. And it's entrusting that next level down to take some ownership and accountability for the talent that's being proposed to come through to the next stage. And that takes getting to know your team, like really tight. And I mean, it is a startup, so it is lean. People know everybody else.
Yeah.
The teams are not big. Like there's only a handful of us here really in Australia. Sure, we're scaling and we're growing rapidly. But it's still small, and with that comes a lot of, I guess, honesty and transparency, and you know what you're looking for, and people understand the kind of skills that we're looking for.
There's almost like a real intimacy in that kind of environment, and I can now really start to see where you're talking about this value proposition. You know, you and I have had so much experience with, you know, talking to interns, and, you know, they might get to the end of their summer internship and then go, oh, you know, look, maybe I didn't have a lot of work on, or my manager was away for a month. I feel like I've missed a little bit. It seems as though you guys have almost done the complete 180 and put so much more emphasis on the hiring manager to go, great candidate experience, stretch them, make sure that they're getting developed, because this could be should be your next graduate in your team.
I think all of us have got access to industry survey data, and we understand those metrics, those things that are really important for early careers and students in what they look for in a role. And every company has those to a degree. It's just really honing in. And I guess if we just rewind, Airwallex would have had that hypothesis around, we're looking for high quality talent. We're looking for people that are really hungry to take on the biggest possible challenges that are out there. How do we create an environment and a setting to support them to have an honest go, have their own project, and to show us that they are able to take on these challenges? And then, you'll then have a whole engineering department's buy-in around what it takes to know what sort of support or capacity people have to be able to support an intern. And then, you just need to make sure that project is up to scratch.
Might actually need this in this podcast around to the students you might potentially be recruiting for, right? Because there's a real art in that transparency of, like, this is it, right? Like, if you decide to apply to us and if you're successful and you get through the process, this is what you're actually going to experience. You know, this is what your future could look like if you decide that you want to stay. You know, you're going to get tested. You're going to get access to, you know, really amazing projects in this space. You know, I can absolutely understand why they don't want to leave, right? Because you've set that expectation right from the get-go with the students before, you know, as they apply, as they get through the recruitment process, as they get that first Airwallex experience as well.
I think every company's got that story to tell around the work that everybody's doing. There's plenty of case studies. There's, you know, if you're building bridges or tunnels or, you know, GT.
Bridges or tunnels.
Or you know, Transformers or whatever it is. If you're building something, you have a story to explain the path and the journey that people are having by working at that company. So it's being able to explain that, and there's no better way to convey that in a relatable sense than having other recent grads or other early people who are not that far into their career to explain this is what I got to work on. This is what I learned.
Are you communicating that, the alumni who have joined the graduates? Have you tapped into those stories to be able to share with at the university a little bit to be able to get those, those interns in? And if so, what impact is that having or has had?
Yeah, that's a critical part of taking your message to your target audience. I'm on campus often enough, but you could see how engaged students will get. There will be huddles around your grads and the other people that come from your teams to come and promote and talk about what their work is like and the interesting problems that they've had to try and solve. So for sure, that's the mecca. That's what you just have to have that support from business to be able to go to campus.
And is that translating into conversion, not just applications, but people who are going through the process and accepting the internship?
Yeah, I think it's a process of getting a really clear shared understanding of what the company actually does. Because I feel like there is so much collateral out there and content to explain, we work in this sector and we do these things and we build these products. But until a student gets to ask in their own words and to have a response that is relatable, that's when they're starting to get really interested and maybe even more passionate to do some further research. And then they're equipped. They come into that interview process. Their motivation to join is very clear, or clearer than others, I should say. And that's important. That's important for us. Anyone that's trying to hire interns, you want to know why is it that you're looking to get into this industry and what's your motivation?
So that transparency has translated into higher conversion from them going through that interview process to accepting. I'm sort of swimming around reneging along with conversion.
Yeah, I think it definitely solves that renege piece. I mean, there's a whole ton of other strategies to try and keep your offer accepts warm right up to start, and that's
a whole other podcast.
Yeah, that's,
right there.
that's maybe a podcast series in itself. But yeah, it is. Again, it's that value prop. It's the end-to-end piece. You're constantly needing to explain with clarity what your
the
opportunity, what the opportunity really entails and what it's really like, and there really isn't there's nothing to gain by misleading or hiding truths around what the environment is like, and as we touched on earlier, the challenge is what is really appealing. I think that really hones in on what engineers are like. They're looking for something complex, something challenging, something that they can put their mark on.
So having worked for Airwallex for a little while now, but having industry.
This episode is brought to you by Video My Job, your go-to platform for creating branded employee videos at scale with zero editing. Authentic employee stories are the key to showcasing your culture and attracting top talent. Book a demo on our website and learn how to create hundreds of videos in under 60 days with full support from start to finish.
The book that you're currently in that they might be able to.
I think it's getting people on that journey. Those who want the benefit of getting your hiring teams, whether it's managers and other interviewers, whoever's going to be involved in that process, it's a case of pre-briefing and being really clear around, look, we're about to open this role. Here's our process. Here's our checkpoints. This is what we're working towards. Everybody's on that same page. So that experience for a candidate is as consistent as possible.
So you think that's where the opportunity is?
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of companies do that to some degree. I think the difference that I've seen with Airwallex is that hiring team is actually quite small. So you're getting a lot of consistency but narrowing that hiring team so that you can get both the efficiency but also the consistency, and it's upfront, and then like having those regular whips and check-ins to make sure that things are still understood and heading in the right direction.
So with those hiring managers, have you got to that point where you've potentially started to face some resistance, or there's been some questions or concerns around, hey, look, maybe that project isn't stacking up, or maybe what you're putting together isn't going to give the best experience to these interns? How have then, well, I guess one, have you experienced it? And then if you have, how have you coached those managers through some of those challenges to ensure that, it's as optimized as you can get it?
Yeah. I think there's a huge ownership piece, which is, I wouldn't say it's not unique to Airwallex, but there's a strong accountability around. We want this project to really provide a real window into what working in our team is like, and then there's their own validation, their own test. They have their domain leads will come in and ask and check. We also have our CTO who will review and look at what that project scope entails. And there's a real appetite to receive that input to ensure that we actually are meeting our own bar, our own expectations around what the project will do and what we hope it to achieve. And if it's not there, then we'll work to pivoting and maybe doing something slightly different with the project.
So it sounds like the hiring managers have been through this process a few times. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, we'll call it out. It's not so different from our engineering hiring in general. So it's essentially benefiting from the experience that those managers and hiring panelists have. And now just putting in the context of talking to students who have minimal experience, maybe 2-3 internships.
Yeah. And are they really clear on what they want? And I'll give you an example. Like you've introduced someone to them and they've just walked out and gone, that person's not going to cut it. And you're like, well, why?
Yeah, there's no fence setting. So in terms of preparing an interview guide and being really clear in that rubric. So at every stage there's that documentation. Those feedback, those notes, everything is captured, recorded. But yeah, there's no fence set.
Is that good for you? Do you like that?
I think it actually speeds things up because people are making a conscious decision that, yes, this is someone I'm willing to back, and I'm prepared to make that recommendation for them to be put forward and decision to move them to another stage. Definitely. I think there's no question around how much efficiency you get from being really clear on what good is, what exceptional is, because that's what we're going for.
Hey, there we go. That's a good plug.
Because I think if you, let's just say you're scoring your rubrics out of 4, right? There's no middle ground. You're either definite that they've done really well and they could be a good hire, but we're wanting to see candidates come through that are getting 4. So we're really clear around like what we want to see in the interview, what signals we are looking for. Technical, but then for engineers, it's a huge part of that is soft skills as well.
Yeah, and I guess in that tech sector, that soft skill piece does tend to then be, maybe something that they haven't had as much exposure to. Like from a personal interactive perspective, working in teams, doing all that kind of stuff. Like some of the tech curricula out there drives individual performance over group performance when they're studying. How in a deeply collaborative environment that you've got over there, how do you weed do you need to weed out the bright shining star who then isn't actually going to fit in and work well with others?
You don't want to waste the hiring manager's time.
Yeah. So early on in the process, there's I guess your application screen and your talent screen where you're checking these things. Like communication's critical, right? In every single role, it's more so in a highly collaborative environment that has to move at pace. And I think there's a real misconception around the curriculum at university or wherever people are learning to be web developers or software engineers. A high proportion of what they do is around collaborating and group work and project work, and you can find those top talents because they'll have an absolute library of projects that they've worked on or they've collaborated on, whether they're open source stuff on GitHub or they've decided to build things with mates, working on games together, all that kind of stuff. So there's a huge amount of opportunity for them to really flex and develop those really key soft skills. And then it's just in that process, hiring process, to dig into and explore and give them the opportunity to realize that they have developed some really strong competencies, being able to communicate effectively and deal with challenging decisions for what are they actually trying to build and what's the point of that build.
Are you almost relying more or as much on what they're doing outside of uni as much as what they're doing within the course? It sounds like there's a number of facets of whether it's a screening process or what you see as really great talent is their extension beyond what they're studying.
Yeah, I think like everybody else, we're looking for all rounders, right? So you're seeing all those signals. They're involved extracurricularly. Maybe they run their own side hustle already, participating in like large scale university level hackathons, or maybe other much bigger scale hackathons or competitions at beyond Australia even. There's plenty of opportunity there for students to really showcase how they're getting out in addition to their curriculum and the subjects that they're working on.
I guess then you've also got that challenge. Tech's always been super, super competitive. How have you, as the global grad TA lead, really leaned your process out so you can get to that talent faster to sell that value prop? Or, you've already done the sell to actually make them want to apply, but how are you then making sure that you're not missing that great talent when they're actually coming into your talent pool?
Yeah, look, I don't know how to answer that really.
It's the dark arts of talent acquisition?
No, I think so. For an engineer, the core is around their technical competence. So we need to see a real strength in technical ability to start with. I think that's the baseline. And then from there through the application review, the talent screen, and then that first live coding interview. While that's an engineering interview, the signals that we're looking for beyond like technical excellence is the ability to communicate, listen, ask questions, be curious around where your interviewers have guided you. To be quite engaged and those candidates have to provide the signal to those panelists that's a future team member right in front of them.
So how does it work? You give them a coding challenge, and then they're going through that coding challenge with your engineers and talking through their critical thinking to be able to solve that problem. Is that the process?
Yeah.
So critical thinking is another. So that's, I suppose, a little bit can be subjective.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you
so
feel
it's important
about?
to have you have that rubric, right? So the scoring still needs to be, the assessment still needs to be done based on that rubric.
Yeah.
The subjectivity, the best effort is trying to get some common ground, and that's why having a smaller hiring pool really supports us being able to go and rely on those assessments. But yeah, the interview, that technical interview is problem based. So we're providing the problem right there in the moment. We're wanting to see how somebody is interpreting what that problem is, see if they're identifying maybe some key strategies to solve that initially, how they may work through, how fast they work through it, how soon they realize the direction they've gone is not the optimal solution, and how they may backtrack, or what questions they ask to get some further clarity around how they may approach this differently. And the interviewers are familiar with seeing those kinds of problems. They're familiar with seeing the inexperience of what the problem maybe entails and what are some of the strategies to tackle it. And with that experience, they're able to coach or guide to bring somebody back in. And at that point, that's also a strong signal to know if you bring somebody into your team, they're going to be eager to learn or really curious around why that solution was not optimal and what should I be doing differently.
Maybe one slightly left of center question for you, Greg. And look, only because I guess I hear about, impact of AI on candidates as they're kind of coming through that assessment process. For a tech firm where, there are a number of tools out there that you can use to kind of do a lot of that coding work, how are you, do you prep your students beforehand about what this task is going to be to give them some guide rails? And I guess from that, where is the business's stance on, bringing AI tools into, from a candidate side, a candidate bringing AI tools into the recruitment process?
Yeah, I mean, look, if we just address that from the different stages, the application piece is really standard. There's no benefit of trying to use AI on your resume. We're just looking for what are the facts.
Yeah.
So that's straightforward. We do an online coding assessment, which has built in risk identifiers on whether or not they're using some sort of AI to help them.
They'll get found out anyway, wouldn't they? If they have to communicate the solution.
Yeah, exactly. So if they were to somehow benefit from using AI, those assessments are also reviewed against a rubric. So for us to identify if they've got an understanding on how they've approached the problem. But yeah, you would catch that out, absolutely, at the interview stage. And the live code stage, there's no opportunity to try and use AI.
Yeah. Would you want your grads to be AI literate and AI skilled?
Absolutely, you have to be. But I think the key for all fields is that students have the fundamentals, they have the background. That's ultimately what we're asking for.
Yeah.
Out of them doing their qualifications. They need to have solid understanding of why things work the way that they work, and then from there they come in, accelerate that learning. But they have to have those principles in place.
Yeah, so that difference between being able to do and knowing what you're doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And if with those engineering problems where they're having to solve right there in the moment, the signals that we're looking for is that understanding. You need to explain why have you taken a particular path. What is it that you think that makes this the best algorithm to use to try and solve this? The interview panel is obviously going to dig in, make sure that there is clear understanding.
Yeah. I think we recruit a very similar way at VMJPod when we're recruiting our engineers, and I can identify that, but I've tried to incorporate that recruitment process throughout all hires at VMJPod. And you do have to spend quite a bit of time and be really thoughtful with the types of questions, how you're measuring them. If a company was to consider a more thorough approach to interns and getting those graduates in, where do you think that they should start?
Yeah, I have to say, the intern experience, I think, is the best proof point. The investment is there because you're providing an environment for a period of time. So sure, it's a lot more effort than running a recruitment process. But you and this is where that retention success comes in, because you're as much as you are trying before you buying, the student is getting that same opportunity, which is critical. There's so many options out there, and I think the intern piece is such an amazing way to approach it. Some of the I guess benefits that teams will often come through. It doesn't matter where I've worked, though. Like, it was so good having these handful of students in the office, and we've loved having so and so in the team. Just the energy, the enthusiasm, the hunger, like the eagerness to just like whatever we're doing, like include me. I'm desperate to find out how this works or how I can help and how I can be involved. So all of that's really infectious, and it's inspiring in some ways as well to people who've been in industry for a long time. I think there's even there's a piece around paying it forward, around you've potentially had a great mentor at some point in your career, or you've had a great manager like Steve at some point in your career, and then you think of how could you support someone else having the best possible start. And you can see that with teams who get behind and support bringing an intern in. As much as they want to maybe make sure that they do have a successful experience, it's as critical to make sure that it's realistic and the challenges there.
Well, it really does sound like you've got a very supportive and inclusive environment over at Airwallex, and I've thoroughly enjoyed the conversation in this episode.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's all these industries that our panelists are coming from, they're so varied, they're so diverse. Sometimes it's just nice actually understanding that there is some really strong commonality on if your hiring managers are invested, if they care about the process and they care about the talent. If you could just focus on bringing that to the fore, a lot of the other stuff can kind of sort itself out at the end.
Yeah. Totally agree. And it is like there are enough passionate people out there that recognize the opportunity to bring new talent in. Like it is like critical with part of your talent pipelining and your hiring strategy to find and bring in amazing people. So yeah, if you can work with those, involve them in your intern program or in the preparation that you have involved in building projects or identifying opportunities to host an intern somewhere. And then, all of that then extends into the next phase, which is, graduates. You want to keep people engaged. You want to keep them challenged. Yes, they need to have had a taste to understand that this is somewhere that they want to invest in for their career. Yeah.
So those TA professionals out there that are struggling, find the right managers, invest as much in them as you are in your recruitment process, and it's probably going to start paying dividends for you.
Yeah, there's definitely that benefit in engaging and collaborating, bringing people in on that journey.
Fabulous.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us today, Greg.
My pleasure. Thank you. Yeah, no, this has been really cool. Nice to see you guys.
Awesome. Cheers, mate.
Thank you.